What is today's date?
24th.
Right there on the thing.
I want to go to the Maine Maritime Museum. Is that the bath one?
Yeah.
I've never been down there first.
Yeah.
Pictures of the models and stuff.
It's quite a bit of walking for seniors, but
A little bit of history down there.
it's
All right.
pretty cool.
So I'd like to call to order the Recreation Committee meeting on Wednesday, October 24th, here 6 o'clock. Kind of go around before we get started, just to again introduce anybody that's watching from home that may not have tuned into the two previous Rec Committee meetings. So we'll just start going down this way.
Ray Tompkins.
Kelly Barton.
And I am Troy Smith.
Marcus Better.
Trevor Redinger.
Karen Rowan.
Great. So I'll ask if there is any citizen comments that we need to be made aware of. Marcus?
Nope.
None? And anybody else? And we'll skip to the third part of the agenda, which is the Recreation Director's report. And I'll turn it over to Marcus.
So this past month we had our annual senior citizen trip. We went to the Maine Maritime Museum, the Taste of Maine for lunch, and then down to Pemaquid Point Lighthouse. It was a beautiful day. It was actually pretty warm for a fall foliage trip. And then we had 25 go, which is usually we get closer to a full bus. We had a little bit low numbers, a few cancellations, but we had a good time overall. Youth soccer's done for the season. Our 5th, 6th girls had a good year. They lost their quarterfinal game 4-3 to St. George. They were down 2 goals in that game and then fought back, but ended up losing. So it was good. I reffed their very first game and their very last regular season game, and the improvement I saw was pretty good. The 5th, 6th boys, they made a playoff run. They were the number 6 seed out of 7 teams, but they ended up losing in the championship 1-0 in overtime to Warren. They beat Thomaston 2 after losing to them twice in the regular season in the quarterfinals. They beat Rockport 4-1 after losing to them 5-2 in the season. And then they took Warren to a 0-0 tie and lost in overtime on a penalty kick. And I don't remember, I didn't write down the score for that one, but they lost to them pretty bad in the first game of the season. We got a tumbling class going on. Tumbling coach Matt Hanley is running that. It's for middle and high schoolers, and we had 23 sign up. And that's happening on Saturday nights, and that'll go for 5 weeks until the cheering season starts.
You said that's middle and high schoolers?
Yep, middle and high school.
And, I'm sorry, when will it run?
It's a 5
7
weeks,
nights.
so it's like the November 17th, I think, is the last week.
I'm sorry, and how many girls?
23.
23 students.
I said girls, not students, my bad.
All girls. And then next thing on my to-do list is to talk to the Camden Snow Bowl and try to get our Waldoboro Ski Club back up and running for the 2nd year. Catherine Osborne, Waldoboro resident, came to me last year and wanted to get something going. It's more of a discount ticket program than it is a ski club, but she kind of spearheaded that and we got it going. We're gonna try to do that. We kind of got into it late last year. I think it was January before we started going. So this year we're gonna try to kick that right off in December whenever they open. And last year, if we bring 10 or more, they give us lift tickets, rentals, and lessons are all $15 each, which is a pretty good discount. So we don't provide any transportation for that, and the department doesn't really make any money off of it. It's whatever the Snow Bowl charges me, I pretty much just charge. If I charged more, they wouldn't get the discount. So, so I set that up with the Snow Bowl, and Catherine goes over and picks up the tickets and hands them out to whoever signs up.
How do people sign up for that if they want to?
They call me and I'll have like a registration form just like any other program.
Okay.
And they'll fill it out and give me a check, and then I'll have the finance department cut a check for the Snow Bowl every week.
How
And,
does the public find out about that?
same advertising, school newsletters, on the sign, in the newspapers, on the Facebook page. So, all my normal avenues.
What are the tickets priced? Do we know yet?
$15 for everything. I don't know what their normal lift ticket price is. But I think I'm pretty sure it's an all-day ticket, but we usually go from 4 to 8 on, I think last year it was Wednesday nights. We might switch to the night this year. We'll see.
And it's organized by you and a volunteer from the community?
Yep. Catherine Osborne.
All right, great. And the only thing I would add to that, obviously, is I was fortunate enough to coach my youngest daughter in the K through 2 program, and obviously, I think you may, did you skip over that or not? But we
Yeah.
wrapped that program up.
Yeah.
And you know, that was great. I know the numbers just for the kindergarten, they had four teams, and I think there was another 4 teams in the 1 through 2.
Yep.
You know, that came out every Saturday and played their hearts out for an hour and a half, and
Yep.
you know, at the end they got a medal and a certificate, so that was a nice touch. And
Yep.
I know my daughter was upset that it had to come to an end, but they look forward to the next season. So.
Yep. Same for 3-4. That wrapped up this weekend. We had 3 teams in that, which is on par for the recent years. And they finished up their games and are all done for the season. So at this point, I'm starting to take down nets and get the fields ready for winter.
Yeah, great. All right, the next agenda item, number 4.1, is to approve the meeting minutes from our September meeting, the 26th. I don't know
Copy in here somewhere.
if anybody had a chance to look those over. I know Kelly sent those out to us. If anybody had any changes
Are
they
there any
wanted to see.
changes, any errors, things I need to fix?
I did not see any, but I'm the last person to spell check and do that.
Good to me.
Is there a motion on the floor to accept?
Motion to accept.
Second it.
Any discussion? All in favor of accepting the minutes from 8:29? Is that correct? Excuse me, 9:26? 9:26. Sorry, got looking at the wrong piece of paper. All in favor? Unanimous. So motion is by Jim. Sorry.
Yep,
Jim second.
I got it.
I apologize to those watching at home, but it's been a long day. So we'll move on. There's no old business, so we'll move pretty much to the new business. Which is some of the stuff that we have been talking to is review, finalize survey questions, and discuss about how that will be once we come to those and how it will be dispersed.
So the papers I passed out were the one page is the questions that Kelly came up with. It's front and back. And then I didn't really tell her I did this when she sent me these, but in the last meeting, Troy recommended the Newport Recreation Department community center survey that they did.
Yeah, I
And
have that.
I took that and I kind of made a Waldeboro version of it. If plagiarism is a thing, I did it. I changed the words to Waldeboro and I changed a few questions to fit our needs. From reading theirs, it looked like they had a community center that they could renovate or build new. We don't have one to renovate, so I changed some of those and I added a couple questions. But it resembles theirs quite a bit. I thought it was a good point to go off, and we can take the questions that Kelly came up with and see if they're already in here, or if we need to add them, or if there's any that are in here that need to be.
A lot of them are in here because I took them,
You took them
I
too.
borrowed
You
from the
plagiarized
Newport,
too.
yes, I borrowed heavily.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
No, absolutely not.
So,
So there's a lot of overlap.
Can I
I just,
throw-
I structured it differently, that's all.
Can I throw another monkey wrench in?
Yeah, sure.
I did some more research and I dug up some of the questions and the type of questionnaire that we put together
Oh, good.
from the foundation. But this was in regard to 80 Gray,
Right.
but that doesn't matter. I mean, well, realistically, so.
probably some of the community needs are the same, whether that's
Yeah, and
at
I'm
80
sure there's
Gray or
gonna be
somewhere else. the needs is-
carryover, but I'll just take one and maybe helpful to take a look at some other things that, well, look, now, I was talking with someone the other day, I was at Lincoln Academy subbing, and was asking people about the swimming pool, they said that might not fly. Has anybody heard that?
I'm sorry, what's swimming pool?
From what I've heard,
Over in Damascotta?
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
No.
from what I've heard, it's still part of their goal. It's just not.
It's just not,
in the near future.
okay, that's,
We had this, just in a different format. We had the spreadsheet with the,
We had the answers.
we had the answers.
you had the answers.
Right, but I had but the questions were on here too, so I pulled from that
But
as well.
I think this just kind of,
Oh, it's a
broken
lot
up.
easier to understand there,
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, it's the same thing
Yeah.
as what was here.
That's what that was based on,
Right,
these questions.
right. So I included everything that was in here, I put in
You did,
here.
okay.
Except, I mean, I wasn't quite as, I didn't drill down as specific here as some of that did.
Mm-hmm.
Because this was a survey specifically, there was a location in mind. And that's a different survey
I
than what
agree.
we're talking about doing.
I
So
agree.
I didn't have the
Yeah.
specificity that did.
Yeah, that's
How
fine.
much would you be willing to pay, or how much should this cost?
I did add that into the back of this one, where they talked about how much money in a yearly membership. I added like maybe tax increase as well.
Did they all
Yeah.
have the
Build and
back
maintain.
page?
Theirs did
It's-
not.
No, theirs was one.
This is this one.
There's
This one.
I wasn't allowed.
think over
I
there
couldn't figure out
below.
how to copy the format, so I had to make my own table,
like that one,
and
that's
it's not
mine.
as small as theirs.
Looks like this.
So obviously this is a rough draft. I would love to shrink this down
That's
so
it.
that it's into one page.
There was one in
Just a book survey out.
Huh.
Do you have a back page on yours?
Which one?
You're looking at
I
that's
have
the
the wrong
Newport.
one?
Yeah, that's the Newport. He made one for Waldeboro.
Oh, the one you stole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Borrowed.
Sorry. There.
Can we share?
Sure.
I think our purpose was to determine if the Waldo residents want a rec center. That was it. So I think we should be positive about our wording. And I think we should be consistent in our wording. We have rec center here, we have community center here, community center here. So I think we should be, if it's gonna be a rec center, that letter I brought into, that Kelly, I don't know if you got it from the church there on Main Street, everybody I think in Waldeboro got one, asking them for money, that they're getting a $350,000 grant if they can do that. And they only have 32 members, 33 members at the church, and they're calling their place a community center. You see the signs around, a place for all?
Yes, that's
That's what that is.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
and they're showing in their floor plan, meeting rooms and things like that. So I think it leaves us for, yeah.
Where's this? Do you have that copy of that letter or something here, or do
I
we have
gave
any-
it to him.
Okay. So this is which church is this?
The one near the library, across from the
across
library
yeah, I've been there
there.
before. Yeah.
It
And so
used
they've
to-
got a grant. It's a matching grant.
Something like that.
Okay. And this would be a new build? Is that, or do we not know
I
that
don't,
yet?
I think it's Reno,
Okay.
right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, yeah.
That's good information.
I
to
don't know
have.
for
So your
sure.
recommendation on this, or whatever we come up with, should say recreation center
Well, I
instead of
think we're
community
saying
center,
community
correct?
center, we're saying rec center
no,
here,
it's
we're
fair.
talking rec center.
The community center was what it was called when we did this, when the survey was done before. I think that's what was on here.
Yeah.
We had been talking about it as a recreation center.
Yes.
And the questions on here I copied from that other place that they called it a community center, so I could change that.
Yeah.
And I think the simpler format, this is, I think, more down the road. I think to determine that they want one.
Don't we need to determine if they think they need one?
Well, yes, they do
Right.
need one, but I think we should.
No, we need to see if the community thinks they need one.
Right,
Right.
right,
okay.
that's what I'm saying. Yep.
Right. So, and to find, what kind of information do we need to know about them, from them, to know if they need it, whether or not they're using one already?
Anything, yeah, if they.
Yeah, so that's what I had
What I
at the top.
said was, do you think the town should create a rec community center? I just flashed that. would you be willing to support a rec center with a minimal tax increase? Because that's kind of what Colorado did.
Yeah.
And how important are the following for you or your family to participate in, which would include youth soccer, da-da-da, all of that? And just kind of simplify it a little bit.
The one that I
I don't think it matters if they went to Damascus or Rockport or Wisconsin, are they using one?
It does, well, I didn't, okay, so this is not ready to go out.
No, I know,
This was a
I
starting
know. I'm
point for
just trying to
questions and
simplify it a
conversation.
little bit.
Right, and so if I were being asked, do I think we need a recreation center, I would want to respond first, well, I don't currently use one. And the reasons I don't use one are because for me, it's not close enough. For other people, it may be because they can't afford it. If they can't afford one of these others, that gives us very valuable information about what they could afford to do here, right?
Right.
Right, so I guess what I was just saying is here, I wanted to know if they're using these facilities, and if they're not, why aren't they? Because whatever facility we might propose would need to address the reasons they're not using these others that are there. And then the rest of the stuff was just, would you use it if it had this or that, or, which is taken from the other stuff. I intentionally left off tax questions because that'll kill it right there. And in looking at the Colorado thing, I think that was the one that you mentioned, they actually did a round of questions first. People said, no, we're not paying for it. And then they added, oh, but if it had an ice rink or a swimming pool, yeah, I'd pay for the
That was
taxes
the
then.
thing that Dan said. Once they said ice rink and swimming pool, that's when the people, when it was a penny increase in their taxes or
Right.
something. But I think if you say affordability, then I think it puts them back immediately on the individual, like, okay, I would have to pay a membership for that. And I think that would put people off.
But aren't they going to have to pay a membership? I
I
mean,
don't
it's-
know.
Taxes are also gonna go up.
Taxes.
Yeah, the other models that we've discussed, in the communities around us, they do have membership fees in addition to some
You
tax-based
pay
increases.
for each, whatever you use.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Not a lot different than the programs we already run. The
Exactly.
kids still
Correct.
pay for them.
Right, you pay
Right.
to play.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
so you're saying that we shouldn't ask them if they'd be willing to pay a membership
Well, I
fee?
just feel that it would be better if we could say that, somehow say it would be spread out and, as you say, pay to play.
Yeah, I was being very conservative on this because we don't know how much it's gonna cost. We don't know how it'd be paid for. We don't know where it's there's a lot of things we don't know.
Yeah, right.
So I guess the question is, do people?
Whether they want one.
No, do people think that we should do one survey now and it assesses whether or not they need one and whether or not they want one? Or do we want to do this in 2 phases? I don't know what people think would be the best way to go about doing it.
I think the board wanted us to determine whether they wanted one. And then the finance committee, I think, would figure out how we could do it, if we could do it, and what the money would be, float a bond, or whatever you're gonna do
It's
about
an
it.
interesting idea, though, to kind of see both coming together. Ask them up front, do you want one? Do you see a need for one? And then.
And then hit them up
Are
with,
you-
would you be willing to
well,
pay?
How serious
No,
are you?
no, are you, what are you doing now?
Yeah, yeah.
To your point, I mean, I think that's part of determining a need.
My hunch is transportation is a barrier for a lot of people. And so in order for them to use one here, they might still need transportation.
Right.
So, and we know cost is gonna be a barrier for some. And ideally, there would be a sliding scale fee that could be utilized for people living at or below a certain poverty level limit or whatever, I don't know, but, or scholarships or something provided. But that's information we just simply couldn't possibly answer right now.
No.
Anything related to cost, we can't really answer, but we could ask them, would you be willing to pay a membership fee? And if so, what would you be willing to pay?
That's why I like the format on the back, because it kind
Exactly,
of puts
right.
it out there.
This one.
If I think most people have a generally, like, if you put it out there to the public, do you want a rec center in your town? probably the majority of the people are gonna say yes. And then you say, well, are you willing to pay for it? Maybe it's not the majority anymore. And then that's still something we have to go on. So, I think, I don't know, I think it might not get us the answers we want, but having that money piece in there is
Well,
important.
I don't, all of these things are, actually, they're pretty close together. I mean, in terms of the one that was done before, this one that you did, Marcus, and
Yep.
the stuff that I drew on from the comments from, the questions from Karen's, the Colorado thing and the others,
Yep.
they're all pretty close. There's a lot of overlap here.
Yeah.
So maybe what we need to do is to go through and scratch out, we could use Marcus's as our guide and see if there's anything here that is glaringly missing
Yep.
that is included in one of these others we added, and then voila, we got a survey.
The 2016 study, questions 1 and 15, I thought were encouraging. 146 people said that they should create a
Right.
center. And on number Q15, the town should support the creation of a community center, 140 people.
Do you think that they thought when you say the town, that they didn't go, that means my taxes go up?
No, I would,
Do you think
most people would.
figure that's the case?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe the people of town would make that correlation. I'm sorry, I've had a heck of a day, but I'm trying to put them together. I mean, I know Kelly put a lot of time into it, and I think there's some valid and some good questions in there.
I have no skin, I have
No,
no
no,
skin
no,
in
no,
this
no, I'm
thing
not-
right here, so feel free to just
Again, no,
discard-
I'm not
disregard
trying
it.
to-
Yeah, nope.
What I like about the one, obviously, that kind of, the Newport style one is that it's more quantitative, like you can, the 1, 2, 3, 4, you can kind of come up with averages, you can do a lot of different things with the numbers.
I
didn't-
assume,
I didn't print off they had their results
Yeah.
linked right to it.
Yeah.
I didn't print those off, but they had everything out in like a pie graph, so you could see what percentage of the people said
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
No, and I think this would be great, the low to high priority. I figured
Yeah.
it would be, these were just questions, this wasn't.
Right.
how
Oh,
it
sure,
looked.
oh, sure, sure. Yeah, again, and I'm just saying that there's some questions that maybe this is missing, like as far as, you know, do you currently participate, or some yes and no questions, like, so you almost have like a yes and no section, you have a
And-
1 through 4 section with priority, and then you also have another section that kind of speaks on,
If-
on price ranges, and then maybe the last section, which, again, you know, people that really care about recreation will spend the time to fill it out. You know, I wouldn't get too concerned of saying there's way too many questions, but, you know, obviously if we're trying to grab them before they get into the grocery store, that's one thing, or if it's another thing, if, you know, we find another venue or how to distribute this so they could take the proper time to get it back to us or fill it out.
If you look at the Newport
What
one
did-
too, they did have a section that said, how frequently do you use the present recreation center? The reason I took that out is because we don't have one, but if we wanted to put that back in and just say, use a recreation center, or
Well-
some form, like some
that-
I
facility.
like that idea, I
Yeah.
like that idea.
I would actually suggest putting those kinds of questions first. Let's see what
Yeah,
they're
I would
already
say,
doing.
yeah.
And the
Yeah.
stuff that you've got on the back here, Marcus, about the programs do you use, I would start out with that, because then they start, oh, that's what they mean by recreation. So I would just flip that. I think those questions are great.
That'd be very interesting information to just know about the town.
And a lot of
Right.
them
Where we get
might,
that.
Right.
they might not even know these programs exist. And so it's also an opportunity to alert them to the fact that they do
Exactly.
exist.
Marcus, what did you use as a vehicle to get this in the hands of their community,
The Newport?
the Newport one?
I didn't read up on that. I'm not sure. I'd have to look back.
Wasn't Newport, didn't you find Newport?
So I believe it was Newport, I believe it's Newport, New Hampshire,
It
which
is
is
Newport,
on the
New Hampshire.
border of
Yeah,
Vermont, New Hampshire.
right.
How did you do yours? How was this one done in 2016? How was it distributed?
This actually, a lot of it was mailed as a,
It was mailed.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we also handed them out too.
And was there a postage paid envelope for return? Pre-addressed and all that jazz?
I don't think so.
What was your response rate?
It was about, what the heck is it?
Like 8%.
Less than 10%.
Yeah.
Well,
Which
I don't know, what is the normal? What's
I think
considered good?
10% around
10 to
is the
12% is really
Okay.
what the norm is. So, but again, this was oriented to 80 Gray. And. I
And
don't
what
know.
time of year was this mailed out?
Oh, God.
It was in, it says 2016. I think it was early 2017 because I remember.
So it was winter?
Yeah, I remember it going out, and I took office, so to speak, in January, and it was still coming back then.
Okay. So we would be sending ours out around the same time this one went out. That's actually pretty good. Do we know anything about how our demographics have changed in the town since this was done? In terms of, the age, do we have?
We're older.
In 2 years.
I figured as much. but I
We're
mean-
2 years older.
Yeah.
We're older.
Not the people in this room,
Oh.
the people out there. Do we know if we've had younger families come in? I mean, you've had some increase in child participation in some of your
Yeah.
programs, so, but I don't know
I mean-
if it's here.
Actually, I would say the majority of my programs since I've taken over have declined. The K2 soccer program this year, obviously our kindergarten group was massive. That's the first major increase I've seen.
And if the kindergarten group is massive, that would suggest to me we've got new, younger families here than we might have had 2 years ago, possibly.
Possibly.
Could,
Yeah.
it's a very active group as of right now, but
Yeah.
you'll find most youth programs will be large at the lowest levels and slowly pyramid up. But it's good to have a good base, and hopefully they'll keep involved.
Yep.
Well, and if there are younger kids, younger families here, we're probably gonna get more response to this than we might have 2 years ago.
But even if you take that and get every single voter that comes through to fill it out, you're not going to be much past that 10%,
Yeah.
Right.
if at all.
From a population standpoint, we're still hovering around 5,000.
Yeah.
That hasn't really
I don't believe
clicked up or
Yeah.
down.
I don't know if there's been a census since that last one, so, but I don't think, not to my knowledge, there's been no major changes.
Do we wanna go through down the list of questions here
Why
and
don't
see
we?
if there's any,
Good idea.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll start with this one.
yeah, the one
I'll
that
just-
Marcus did.
Go through
Marcus
stuff.
did, yeah.
Yep, so does Waldeboro need I think we voted.
Are we calling it
or
recreation center?
Recreation center,
All right, so we're gonna do parallel structure,
yep,
keep it consistent.
very good word.
Well, that's what they,
Yeah, no,
contractual information.
yeah.
I think if we're gonna flip some of these questions up and we're putting first what recreation programs they participate in now, then
Yeah.
having that question there after that would make sense.
Okay.
Which one was that? Which number was that
Number
one?
one.
No, I know, but
Oh.
what was your next one?
Oh, no, the-
Oh, number 15 next to it?
All of the ones that are on the back that ask
Oh.
about what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And then adding into these questions here on the back about what Waldeboro programs you're using is, do you
Right,
go to any other
right.
rec center? Those would come first, was what I was suggesting, and then we would hit them with, do you think we need a recreation center?
Well, it'll kind of create that referential setting as to.
Exactly, it
what-
gets them in the mindset of recreation first.
Correct.
Yeah.
Tried to just copy this one, but it wouldn't copy that.
You know, question number
Oh, I
3,
have
is
Adobe, can
that,
edit it, if
is
it's a PDF.
is
Yeah.
that a question that we need?
I don't know that we need number 2 either, because how would you define quality recreation?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't,
I would skip 2 and 3.
what do people?
Everybody feel
is
that
it-
way, or,
I
oh, no?
did show this to some other eyes today, and they
Yeah.
recommended lumping 1, 2, and 3 kind of together somehow. I hadn't read it.
All right, so,
Well, I think number 3 actually could be answered by some of these others below when you're
Yeah.
talking about how important would it be for you to have these specific issues. But yeah, I,
Because we're supposed to just determine if they want one. So if they want a rec department, they obviously feel that fitness or health and wellness is important to them.
Well, we're assuming they do. We're gonna give this to some people that may not want a recreation center.
right,
So they would be on the opposite side to the one of, no, I don't need it, or I don't want it, or how important are health and fitness to you, and it'd be a 1. You know, they may still want it for their kids or grandkids or whatever, but they personally don't want it, or don't need it. So we think we should combine 2 and 3 together?
yeah, I think we can combine 2 and 3. I mean, one is a very important question. Do you think we need one? That's a pretty important one, so.
How important are community activities and programs?
That's a pretty open-ended question, and who would say not important at all? I mean, who might say, I mean, I don't know that many people would say that. Do we want to give them examples of what we're talking about?
I think if you're gonna have a community center, you're going to expect to have activities and programs there, that you don't really need that question at all. It's my thought.
People who make surveys will say that it's always better to ask the question than to assume you know the answer. And I don't know that I agree with that, because I see your point, Karen, because I would skip right over it, but I'm just saying that's.
And also, going down here to the gymnasium, I said something to somebody about a rec department, and they said, well, we already have a gymnasium in town. The Baptist Church has a gym.
Yeah.
I don't know how active, or if we can use it, or
So is the school.
in the school, yeah. So I don't know if getting that specific in here,
Well,
I can tell you that the church does not have a gymnasium with spectator seating.
No bleachers then, huh?
Nope.
No bleachers.
They don't.
No bleachers. Which, you know, if, as far as recreation departments go, with a gymnasium with spectator seating, you could run tournaments and do some other stuff that
Right,
would bring
right.
in some revenue to help out. If you don't have that spectator seating or a
Right.
full-size gym, you really can't do those. I am looking at doing one this year at the middle school or high school, I'll get, but not in the own facility. And finding time up there is tough.
mm,
Especially in
That's the
I'm
kicker, right?
sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
You can say there's multiple gyms,
Right.
but in about 3 weeks,
They're booked.
try getting into one of them.
yeah.
I just booked the Miller School gym from every Wednesday night from the beginning of November through March,
Oh, they're gonna come looking for you.
just so I can have one slot that if I need to do something I can do it. Because if I don't book it, every night is Pee Wee
Oh, yeah,
basketball,
yeah, absolutely.
and so
I mean, there was, yeah.
still some open spots.
Well, no, Costa used to use that gym. Like,
They still do.
Oh, they still do?
Yeah, they still have
They
that.
have, theirs is up and going.
Oh, really?
Isn't it?
I think they're still on the schedule.
All right, so,
So.
yeah, let's try to get through these
Same
and,
kind of stuff here, but I was
Right.
a little bit more specific. I gave them examples. A meeting space available for this, or some activities that might include that.
And maybe that type of clarification should be
Yeah.
added
School district would be a
in,
potential
because,
customer.
I mean,
How important is senior citizen specific program? What they don't, what kind of programming? Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Does
i.e.
the school have an after-school program?
There is an ACE program right out front of the school that they do after-school program.
little white
That little
building?
I would
building.
agree. I think
Right
we
before, if you're coming
need
from
Oh, okay.
Hannaford.
So
be
just
more
combine,
specific.
yeah.
I've never been in there.
I've never been in there either. It's an after-school program.
Yeah.
Kids
So-
do activities.
all right.
So Jim and I were just talking, and we're thinking, these questions here, how important are these programs or that programs? Those are good to ask, but we might want to draw from here with some examples. We don't want to just say, how important is senior citizen program? Well, what kind of programming are you talking about? If it's basket weaving, that might not be important to me, but if it's Pilates, that could be really important to me. Or if it's cooking classes, that could be important. So I think giving people examples of what it is that we're asking. What do we mean by programming? And it doesn't have to add a whole lot of text. It's just a couple of examples.
just i.e.,
Yeah,
Such as.
and it doesn't
Such
have to be
as-
just for seniors.
No, that,
Your
in
program.
each of
But
these areas.
each of these
Teams,
areas, I think,
Yeah.
they're just, locker room facilities. All right, well,
For the pickleball people and the basketball
You
people
know.
and the tennis people.
exactly. I
exercise
mean, you need some place that you can change up, or, So what we're talking about is maybe taking some of the narrative from the other document and plugging it in to this. I mean, I like this
I
format.
think the format
I
is,
think
the format looks really
Yeah,
nice.
Are we
I think
in agreement on that?
Yeah, I
I
would
like that
think
it's
it
front
would
and back on the
appeal.
sheet.
Yeah,
Keep it simple.
Were you mentioning too, doing the demographics up top?
Yeah, I was, well, it does have some. It has age up here at the top
Yeah,
and
but I mean, to
gender
me,
and-
I almost considered some of these, like, I really like the idea of collecting.
how many kids you have at
fact-
home
Well, no,
and,
some of the factual stuff.
Yeah.
Not just the normal demographics, but what are you currently doing?
yeah,
There's not an opinion there.
yeah.
That's,
Well-
what do you know, what are you currently doing
Mhm.
as a, as demographic information, and then, okay, now let's try to get your opinion on some things, maybe.
Yeah. Well, and I think if we just swapped on the back, question 15, question 16, if we moved those up to
Up
the
to the
top, that's, because 15 and 16 is what Waldeboro rec programs have you participated in, and what non-Waldeboro rec programs have you participated in over the last year?
Right.
And the non-Waldeboro rec would be, we could add in there too, a question about, are you a member of another recreation center? One question that's not here, that I don't see anywhere, I'd love to be able to find out how many children under the age of 18 people have in their homes, people who are answering. That'll tell us a lot about the answers that they're giving. If we're getting a lot of, I just think that's good information to have, because then we know who says they want it. Well, it's the people with young kids, or it's the people who are over 60, or it's the people in this little middle age group. Or I think if we're sitting out a survey collecting demographic information, it's not a bad idea. But yeah, so if we just flip those questions up to the front, and then the rest of it, we just add in a couple of how important are community activities and programs such as, and then fill that in. I don't know that we need to, I think, I tend to overthink things, and maybe I'm doing that right now, so. Is this a editable document?
Yeah, that was the question. It is?
Yeah, I created this in Word, so
Okay.
might take me a little bit, but I can shift stuff around.
B and I think, are redundant.
B and I, oh.
B, oh, down below.
Not to derail. I mean, thinking about gym time, we live in Maine. If you wanna do anything active that's not cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, or riding a sled in the winter, you need somewhere indoors to do that.
Right.
My limited experience with sports is that indoor time in anything larger than this room is very limited. And we have quite a few options. I'm not sure if Coastal's done yet, but there's 2 good-sized gyms with spectator seating at the school. Each of the elementary schools, between Friendship, here, Warren, I mean, they all get used. Coastal, I mean, if they're done, they were playing in the Miller gym. At least one of their teams, and multiple have in the past because they had volleyball in there too.
Yep.
So you're
Is-
thinking that a gym might not be needed because we have
No,
enough
I'm
facilities?
thinking that
It is?
you could,
Okay.
without asking anyone's opinion, essentially just demand, market demand for that space. Do you see what I'm saying a little bit, or is that not?
I see it could be either way, just like she said, that if these are all used, then what would we be drawing for our use here? at
Well,
the rec center?
I'm hearing
Because
Trevor saying that there's not enough space.
Yeah.
Well, I
There's
hear
bigger
that too.
demand.
What it is you're gonna draw, instead of having spread out, you're drawing everybody in one place.
Yeah. That's
I'm
not a
thinking
bad
that-
thing.
No, there's
There's
in sad 40,
gym time is so valuable
there
that
is no such thing as too many basketball courts.
Yeah.
In the state of Maine
in the winter.
in the winter.
Right.
Yeah. So in other
So-
words, a new
true.
gymnasium would be used.
Yeah.
And I mean,
I know
and
that they will
and
come.
I would argue maybe from our standpoint, because I'm a wrestler, which I hadn't really thought of.
I'm moving
We-
away.
Well, no, I mean, maybe you have to go to Damerscott to play pickleball. That's not an option here because it's basketball. I mean, wrestling program gets pushed out of the gym.
Yeah.
Oh,
You-
really?
Space is tight. I mean, and it goes on through. When does travel stop? I mean, and those seasons are only getting longer. I mean,
The very end of March.
and now
1st of April.
AAU's getting picking up. So, I don't know, like, part of me almost feels like just taking a step back and looking at the usage.
I mean,
Sure.
Do you need another gym in? Yes, we would fill 6. No, I mean, the Pee Wee basketball programs, you get limited on the number of practices you can have, because we have to go through and, okay, everyone gets one first, and then
Everybody
the
gets
older
one.
ones get 2. I mean, so there, to Marcus's point, there is no other.
You're saying we don't need to ask because it's happening? Is that what you're getting at?
No, I, to a certain degree. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of and I think what we're saying. I don't know. The community /rec. When you say rec, to me, you're talking
Activities.
a full-size gym.
Yeah.
Whether that's for 2 or 3, 4 pickleball courts, or a basketball court, or a volleyball court,
Or both,
or a multi-function, whatever, floor hockey.
yeah.
But then there are so many other great things. So I just, a kitchen, like the Han Center, they have a small gym and a kitchen. I don't know. When you talk a basketball court, people would pay.
We'd be sending out some sort of cover letter with this, I would assume, right?
I don't know. I didn't mean to derail it, but
No,
just.
no. What I was just gonna say, because the point that you raised about usage, I think is interesting, and something a lot of people may not know. People like me who don't have young children in the system here, or like Karen who don't have young children in the system here. That could be good information to have for people like us. If you were, and all it would take is the number of children or adult people who participate in winter activities in our area. And the fact that we have X number of facilities, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's it.
Is that usage data available though, Marcus? Do we know?
Even
I mean-
the Baptist Church has the adult league. I mean, you can't
That's-
even get in there.
I was gonna say, they, yeah.
3 or 4 nights a week. they're
Right.
booked in there.
I don't know how to wordsmith it, but I mean, if there's a
Yeah.
way to,
I don't think there's any concrete stuff out there, but I could go back and look at the schedule and tell you how many nights a week it's booked.
It's booked every night.
even
of the
that
week.
right
Yeah.
there would be, well, and if we had that for, if we can say, I'm just throwing a number out, if there are 8 gyms available to people who live in Waldeboro, and of those 8 gyms, they are booked 7 nights a week, all of them, that right there is great information in a cover letter, because then they'll know why it is that we're sending them this survey in the first place.
I'll say
Good
one of the
idea.
reasons. I mean, it's
One
not-
of the reasons, right.
I mean, for some people, it's all about basketball.
Right. Well, and it isn't
But-
just, but like you just said, it's not just basketball though. I mean, it's basketball, it's any of the indoor,
Basketball's like a-
activities.
Like an eighth of my job, so I know all about the other sports.
So there's volleyball, pickleball, basketball, and then there's
Yeah.
fitness classes, and there's just all kinds of stuff. But that's a way that we could incorporate what you're saying.
Gymnastics could be coming up on the,
There's just, right now, there's not a whole lot of room for
right.
anything.
And they-
Like
The
Mark's
tumbling.
point, he has to go in and reserve that, or otherwise it's gone.
Yeah.
Are there
He's-
different programs, like different basketball programs being run by these different places, like at Coastal and at Miller, or is it just,
Primarily, it's Madom.
Yeah.
It's the stuff I'm familiar with is Madomic Pee Wee basketball programs, which are run through
The school.
the varsity coaches.
okay,
Which is run through the boosters in the school.
So they
Coastal
use-
is their own program. They're building a gym, but their varsity or their school team was practicing at Miller. There's now AAU teams that play, and they're probably out of season, I think, for the most part. Sure. But, I mean, it's funny. Like, just thinking about it, there's a crunch. Like when you talk about like doing a tournament, that takes some play. Like John's tournament over in Warren, the March, like all those tournaments, they happen the same week every year because you can't move them. Because there's there's others,
Everything has a timeline.
everything
based
has a
on
time.
agenda.
Everything has a time because it's all just scheduled, and you can't just go, hey, I want to have a tournament. Well, good luck.
All right,
So sorry.
No, I just think we're jumping around, and I wish I
Yeah.
could say, just grab the, reins and say, this is what I think, but I really I don't have tons of experience with it, but I think a cover letter leading into this survey that both marks some of the historical efforts for community center that they've done in the past, what the current situation is, and us being charged to look at and get more feedback from you, the public, please fill out this corresponding survey, either send it in or go online, whatever the
Drop it
method
off at
is.
the town hall.
Yeah, whatever those methods are, and it states it in that cover letter. Some people will read it, and some people will just jump right to the survey, and some people will just throw it all away.
Right.
You know, so, but I really think we gotta kind of define this survey tool and understand, like, each question's gonna have some sort of purpose in gathering information of what that community center would have. And then you're looking at a possible creation of a building based on the needs. And then you're gonna have a future survey of, this is what it would cost to build, this
Right,
is
I
what
think-
we
yeah, I
would
think we
operate,
got
and
that.
these are some alternative type stuff to
This
fund it.
first, this second, this third.
Yeah, well, I like
And
that.
unfortunately, it
Yeah.
is a process to, especially in a small community like ours, to look at such a big project and not say it's gonna happen in 2 years. It may be 5 years down the road, it could be longer, it could be less, but, you know, I think those are the steps of, this is what's happened, this is where we're at now, and this is where we'd like to go. Please fill out the survey, get this, it's what people want. And then you can take all that and you can, you know, and some of it's already been created, but let's see how fresh it is to say, okay, this is what the community wants. They want a meeting room, they want an indoor track. Okay, well, we didn't know you wanted an indoor track, so that's gonna be an extra 300,000 to suspend it over the gym, or, you know, we didn't know you wanted this, or we found, like, surprisingly, there's a lot of need for whatever, and then you kind of factor it in, and then you kind of push it back to say, okay, this is what we're looking at, and now, okay, rec committee, you've come up with a building, and you come up with costs, like, how are we gonna fund this? You know, what's the monthly membership gonna be? What would the town's contributions be? Could you do some grants or alternative funding? All that other stuff that's just oodles and oodles of fun.
I like that approach.
So you're suggesting a multi-step survey process. This first one is to get information about want, need/want,
Correct.
not necessarily about how much would you pay.
Yeah.
To the most part, like, you know, and it might want to say it on the, you know, the purpose of this current survey is to see the recreational needs for the town of Waldoboro for an indoor facility. Not talking about, not building a, you know, a tennis court or doing other stuff, like an indoor facility. And what would you want or need in it? And then we
That's
kind of
step-
build it.
That's two
An
things.
indoor recreation.
I think or at least, I like the idea of step one, what are the facts? As much as you can. Maybe they can be combined. I don't think they're
Sure.
exclusive. But what are you doing, you know, what are you doing now?
What do you want to do?
And then what do you want to be doing?
Yeah, so, I'm sorry, are we calling it an indoor recreation?
Well, it's
Are
a
we-
recreation
You
center.
said, yeah,
I
indoor
think-
facility.
I think that's fair to say. I think
Well,
Or
Yeah.
If we,
indoor recreation facility.
when I think of indoor facility, I think of a freestanding gym and not much else. If I think of a recreation center, I think of all of these other rooms and the kitchens and the.
No, that's
fitness
fine.
rooms.
I just,
I see what you're
I
saying.
just, in my world of recreation,
Yeah.
it's not all indoors. Like, you know, we spend a lot of money on parks and trails and stuff. And we're not doing a true recreational survey from the town of Waldoboro to say, oh, I want more cross-country ski trails and I want a trail that's down by the river. No, we're doing a survey to find out what you would want for a recreation center.
A would it be not only putting indoor, but saying a multi-purpose? I mean, it's just, I mean, it would be.
That would,
Yeah.
I mean, even if you only line it for basketball, it's still gonna be a multi-purpose facility, you know, it's still
An
be a
indoor
Oh, yeah.
multi-purpose recreation
Well, yeah.
facility. How about that?
Is that, I see what you're saying though, because it does, people have preconceived notions and maybe the community kitchen is one of the biggest ones, you
Well,
know?
yeah.
We all wanna cook together.
Well, and the other wrinkle is what Karen had mentioned to us about what the church is doing too. If they're going to be, creating community rooms that people can access for meetings or for arts and
Yeah.
crafts, and that may not be a need that would be in this recreation center.
true, but in general, you know, throughout states or throughout the United States, you don't typically mix town and government with
No, you're right.
church and
But
religion.
no, but
Yeah.
there's other,
You know, and I'm
there's
not,
other, the library has a meeting room.
Yeah.
This is a meeting room.
And the Waldo Theater, I think part of their
There's-
renovation process
There's
will
other,
have meeting
like when you
rooms.
talk about
Yeah.
what we would,
right, but there's not many places where you can rent a room to have a birthday party.
No,
Well,
yeah.
It's combined with a
That's-
gym, where there's
that's-
not
there
a,
you
like
go,
a
that's true.
50th, I mean, there are some, but
Meeting
there's-
rooms could
but-
probably be pretty similar to gyms. You can never have too many.
Pretty, well, they look at the little
Well,
season. you
another, I
can-
mean, other than a meeting room is you have a classroom, you have, you know, a different arts and crafts room or whatever you have for
And the meeting
multi-
room can
multi-
be senior citizens, childcare, or whatever, and I think some of these in here, we may be opening ourselves up. If we say we have flexible indoor space serving multiple purposes, covers if childcare is needed in the community at some point, that could maybe be used in there
an
one
option.
day or two, or it could be used for senior citizens. I don't think we should indicate that we could possibly have childcare at that place.
That's just kind of blurring the lines is what you're
Well,
saying.
it's just setting us up, oh, well, I
I
did a
did that because
survey
it said I was
because
gonna-
I'm gonna get childcare
Right.
there.
Right.
You know,
That's,
I mean,
Look,
if you say
once it's-
multi-purpose facilities, then I think you're, it could be used for something.
Is childcare on here?
Yeah,
So
number
Yeah, I
seven.
didn't, I,
Number
Oh, okay.
7.
Yep.
Number 7.
oh yeah, I didn't put it on mine
And that's
because
from
of the
Newport,
cost
right?
issue of
Because
staff.
they might have.
Maybe they already have it.
Maybe they already have it.
So what they mean by childcare for a recreation center like that would be is Mr. and Mrs. going to work out with their son or
Right.
daughter.
Right.
Can they watch them for an hour and a half
You're
while they
right,
work
right,
out? Not
right,
as in
right.
as a true childcare facility for daytime. Right,
It could be either or,
right.
yeah.
Is that something we want to leave in?
speak.
Speak?
Speak, Ray.
I think we need to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Write the cover letter, 5, maybe 6 questions. Do you want a rec center?
Really?
What do you want to do there?
Just 5 or 6 questions?
Simple, just to get the interest there, just find the interest. Because you might get it back and they be like, we don't want to do nothing for you.
Did you hear those coyotes?
Is that what that is?
Yeah, chasing something.
Goody.
I mean, I don't know. I think the first question is, does the community want one? Or does the town hall, do they want a community
I think-
center,
I think that's the second. I think we need to determine if there's a need.
a need?
Right,
I think that's different than, or a different piece of information than a want.
Yep.
They may need it, but they,
Tell you, pass it out at Pee Wee basketball when you have 3rd and 4th graders practice until 8 o'clock at night, cause gym, cause the 5th and 6th grab the early spots. Get a bunch of different answers.
Right,
Do you know what I mean?
right, but you're also gonna bias group.
Well, yeah, no, but,
No, I know what you're saying.
yeah. The difference between, are they, are we using it as a,
I mean, I think it would be fair to say that everybody on this committee has a commitment and interest to recreation, so therefore we'd have a bias where there's a large group, or
Yeah,
there's a
that's why we're
group
here- that's why we're here,
of
right.
citizens that don't find recreation important and stuff, so we gotta try to find an instrument that's gonna reach everybody and come up with that consensus, so we can present it to the to the town selectmen.
I mean, my belief is that if one day they're like, yep, a new Waldeboro Rec Center's opening up, it'll get flooded with people. They'll be like, oh yeah, we're going over to the rec, hang out, play basketball, do whatever. If it just appeared.
if it just appeared, that'd be awesome. wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be.
build it, they will come.
I just didn't match enough numbers last night, I apologize.
So what's the next step for us? Do we
Well,
want?
we're trying to
Do
pare
we wanna
this down, I
fine-tune?
think.
I almost say we need like a workshop to create this document, or where we're all working together, so you don't spend time creating 15 and we got 15 here, and like where you kind of write down on the chalkboard and say these are, because we seem to kind of be jumping around a lot, and I don't know if this is the best forum to kind of be able to try to throw it all together. Like, I don't know if it's another meeting, like a true, like a workshop, where you come up with this and then we present it at the next meeting, like this is what we came up from this workshop. So what I'm not making a motion, but I'm possibly recommending is we come up with a time to meet for a 2-hour period where we can sit down and actually fine tune this instead of kind of going around in an
I
open
like-
forum.
I like that idea.
I mean, that way we can kind of just
Yep.
get some stickets and notes and kind of come up with it, and maybe we
Bang it
can.
out.
I got a really huge whiteboard in my office.
That's perfect.
Good,
So
yeah.
that would-
We don't know if fit in here.
That would be my
Let's do it.
recommendation. However, we also, so I don't know how anybody else feels about that.
No,
I know I don't want to ask
I
more
think it's a
time.
good idea.
I
No,
just
I think
don't.
this is
I just
good
think
use
this
of
is
time.
jumping everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whereas we can just look at it and then nobody's spending a lot of time and
Yeah.
you know, besides just doing it as a true group.
Well, and even if, I mean, Marcus said he's got this on his computer. If we have a computer, we can, and do you have a projector?
We can get one.
Yeah, this
So
one.
you
There's
can,
one in
you
the
can
office
actually
somewhere.
go in and type changes while and we do this 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I have one at home if needed. So,
We have one.
so,
Media Choice House.
So we'll plan on that. I'll try to find I think there's a projector and a screen right in here. I'll try to find a time when this is open. Do we want to do,
Well, we
a
do your
week?
whiteboard first and then
Or whatever.
work to the computer, yeah.
Yeah.
are we talking weeknight or a weekend or what?
Well, and how, I mean, in terms of when we would do it,
Yeah.
the next 2 weeks are flat out for me. I have no free time at all, none, zero, not until after the election, so,
I'm in between seasons right now.
yeah.
I mean, do we
But
want to get this out at the election? I guess is.
I
I think
don't,
we'll have enough time.
I don't know how we could possibly do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was an idea to begin with,
Yeah, yeah.
and maybe there's a possibility for you to, that other survey that you had done, or that said, here are the programs, and would you be, that might be good to hand out here at election. But yeah, and I'm not saying that we have to schedule around my schedule, I don't mean that at all, it's just I would not be able to participate if we do it in the next 2 weeks.
no.
Um,
So you're saying after the 13th,
The 6th,
the 6th, yeah. So,
preferably
Would,
not on the
uh,
7th, I'll be
Would there be
sleeping.
enough time to get out, possibly just like a demographic survey?
I'm sorry,
A demographic?
oh, for the.
For just the demographic of, family sizes, kids under.
What you do now?
That we can get
Yeah.
from census, can't we?
No, but
The census is-
2016 census,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or,
Is
yeah,
it-
that would be the,
The most recent.
I think it was 16.
Did we have 16?
I could be wrong, but.
The last US census was done in 2010, but.
Yeah,
that doesn't-
2010.
Right, but that doesn't mean that there hasn't been something locally.
Okay.
So when are we looking?
So maybe the 14th, Wednesday the 14th as a workshop?
What about the week before, the 8th or 9th? The 8th.
The 8th being a Thursday.
8th Thursday?
8th is a Thursday.
I
Thursday.
could do a Thursday.
I can't do the 8th. I could do the 9th, which is a Friday. I can't do the 8th. Well, I could, it depend upon the time. If we met a little bit later. I have a meeting in Augusta that day and I won't be back before 6. And my dogs will be crossing their legs. I'll have to get home and let them out, so. I mean, is 7
This-
too late?
What about a Saturday morning? Is that a option or?
Saturday morning would be difficult for me.
Okay.
Just because on the 3rd and the 10th, we have basketball starting, so I would be
Yeah, I
coaching.
think for those in the group with young kids, I think a Saturday weekend would be difficult.
Yes, so the 8th we could do at 7 o'clock if you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, or
we
even,
could
I can
do
just be a little later.
the f-
just wanna
I
know
could,
what
I could
people
try
do.
to, I could try to be back here by.
How many people ride sleds? Who does what in town
The
for
8th,
recreation?
the
Like, you
7th,
know
8th,
that
9th,
it's
and
not
10th.
just
6th through 9th,
Anyways.
this room is open.
mine gets going.
well, the 6th is voting, so that would be a no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Because that would be crazy here.
and I can't do the 7th, but I could do, just figure out the time of the 8th and I'll make it work on my schedule.
Even if we started at 6
Even
or
if I'm
6:30,
even if I'm
you're just a little late.
That's fine.
Why don't we go for 6:30 on the 8th?
6:30 on the 8th?
And we'll play until 2 hours or so, hopefully till 8:30. And we can kinda,
You should bring snacks. I'm just saying.
Just
if you have
I'm
time
miss-
to bring
gonna
in
be here for 2
snacks, you
hours.
can, yeah.
Just know I'm missing Big Bang Theory. But that's all right. Just.
The joy of DVRs, Raymond. It's
I never liked
not
that
a live
show.
sports game.
6:30, you said?
The Red Sox started.
So there's a,
Do we want, I'm sorry, go ahead.
so we're gonna move,
They don't know.
or is there a motion, there's a motion, or is there a motion to move this to a workshop to be held on,
Make said motion.
Okay, motion to move the survey creation to a workshop on the 8th of November from 6:30 until completion.
Motion made by Trevor, and I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Should I make it a public event or
It could,
private?
it could be public if they want.
Okay,
Are we ready?
It's a workshop,
Are we
it just
ready for
probably won't be
that?
it's
recorded,
in the calendar.
right?
Yeah, I mean, are we ready for
I
people
don't
to
know
be
if you
sitting in
wanna
here
do
and
it
offering?
public.
I just have to put it on the
Here
public
now.
calendar.
That's true.
I don't think you're gonna get
Have
many
to, I can
public,
think of it.
but if somebody has
If you put
something
snacks
good to
down
say,
on-
then couldn't hurt.
Okay, so Trevor made the motion, I seconded. Are we voting?
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll move it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All unanimous? So the tricky one next is item 6.1.
Can we pause for a second?
Yep.
Sorry. Do we, at least the discussion we've talked about tonight on this, do you want me to go back and edit it? And try to clean it up a little bit with what we at least talked about tonight to get it a little more prepared for the workshop?
I don't think that would be a bad idea.
Okay, and I'll cross-reference with these questions.
And as you work on it and you want to disperse your improvements,
Yep.
That'd be
it's
cool.
just more information for us to have to get started with.
Yep,
And then we can take that and kind of work with it once we get here.
sounds good.
I think that's fine. So the next agenda item was for the Ask Grant spending, and I understand, Marcus, you have some information on that?
Yeah, so we have up to $2,000, and I think it's supposed to be, I think the way Max described it was supposed to be spent before December, but if we at least have a plan of how we're gonna spend it, that he can report at their meeting, we'll be okay, but it's we pretty much gotta come up with that tonight. We have to have some type of plan that I can give to him to
Okay.
get those funds.
Did you find out if we can use it to pay for the survey?
Yes, we can.
We can. okay.
Anything that has to do with the recreation center project.
Okay.
So it could be used for mailing.
I was just, do you happen to recall what it cost to mail this last one out? A ballpark?
I did a bulk rate,
5,000.
Yeah, I can ask John
46 cents, about
or
2,500
Tina.
Yeah,
bucks.
but bulk rate,
yeah,
Oh, yeah, I don't
bulk
know.
rates.
Cheaper than
And did you send
46.
it out to all residents, all households?
I'm pretty sure we did, yeah.
There's not
I
If
would
5,000
think so.
people, how many
There's not
households?
5,000
Do you know that?
households.
I'll have to get it.
Okay. Well, if there's enough, I mean, I don't know what this kind of thing costs. If there's enough, it'd be great to do postage paid return. Let's increase our, but I don't know if 2,000 would be enough to cover postage and.
Yeah, so I would say the bulk of the $2,000 would be spent on creation or printing and creation of survey, mailing, and then any additional funds would be used on calculation or, paying somebody to put it all into a computer program and be able
I
to
can
analyze
check
it,
with,
pie
Tina.
charts, all this. If there's, I'm assuming that services out there, we could find somebody that would do it.
It would be awesome to find out too what data entry, how you did your data entry on the replies. To get this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you said, so any additional funds would be put toward
Analyzation of the
Yeah,
Yeah,
analysis,
yeah,
okay, analysis,
yeah. If
okay.
we could find some service or somehow to clean it up or making charts or whatever that may be to inform the public of the findings.
And you said it's up to 2,000, right?
I think that's what he told me.
It says 25 here.
Could be. Maybe I misremember.
And then if he needs more detail than that, then we could, try to research what the numbers would, you'd have to do some work on
Yeah.
finding out how many people, how many mailings, how much it would cost and that type of stuff.
Yep.
If he needed more detail than that.
Right.
Does ASK stand for something? Is that an acronym?
Yeah. Don't ask me what it's for though. It's something to do with just Lincoln County. I know that much.
So it's, and what's the organization that this is coming from? Lincoln County Planning or Lincoln County Development? What is this group coming from? The grant?
Lincoln County Grant
Yeah,
is what we had in the last notes.
Yeah, Lincoln County. I'd have to ask Max. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
I've seen these grants out there. I just haven't.
It'd be good if we could get the name of the organization that's giving it just to put in the
The
minutes.
county. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So I think that would be the plan that he'll submit, and then if he needs further detail, then I would advise that staff, being Marcus, come up with what that would need to be to, or
Yeah.
more detailed budget.
Yep.
Next item agenda, that's community center next steps, and I think we've kind of outlined those a little bit in our conversations. But really, the next step would be the meeting on the 8th to kind of come up with a survey tool. And then maybe when we leave that, we can also talk about the cover letter and go from there.
Do we want to go ahead and set up our regular meeting, the next
Yeah.
regular meeting?
So our next regular meeting,
It's already in the calendar.
staying with the fourth Wednesday, would be November 28th.
And Thanksgiving is
Fourth.
the week before that.
Yeah,
So.
The fourth Wednesday of the month is the 28th.
the 28th.
So
Yeah,
31st
we're
is next Wednesday, so.
The 22nd.
So it doesn't interfere with holiday?
Nope.
It's the 28th, you said?
Yes, the fourth.
I may not be able to make it that day, but
Okay.
someone else could fill in for secretary duties.
We'll pass that along. We'll make it done. And the nice part is videotaped. So with that, we have our next meeting on November 28th at 6 o'clock here at the town office. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Did we have items for the upcoming agenda?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Need to
Assistance
know.
with specific know-how.
What?
Assistance with specific know-how.
Ask.
That's what they
Ah.
ask us.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Had to dig a little bit.
Okay.
And I'll motion if that's what we're still on, but we know we have to do something else.
Yeah, sorry.
That was a double hand.
Is there any other items that we'd like to see on the upcoming agenda?
It will just be going over the
Semantics.
survey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Going over. Yeah. Okay. So finalization of the survey.
Final
Yep.
license, okay.
Or approval, hopefully.
And then as well as your director's report as normal
That'll.
of what's upcoming.
Is our plan to present this to the select board in December?
I don't think we
The
picked
survey?
I don't think we've
I
made
don't think we
that,
picked a date.
that
Okay.
deadline. I mean, hopefully that we can get through that on the 8th, and that will lead us in a good direction to possibly be able to present it in December,
Okay.
or get approval for it
When's the next meeting?
before we send it out.
November
That may be needed as well, or wouldn't hurt.
Okay.
Now I would take a motion to adjourn.
Trevor.
Oh, I got perfect
Trevor, you made all the motions
Second by
tonight.
Karen. All in favor?
Aye. All right. I have to go home
I
and
gotta put that in there, so I
Okey dokey.
gotta go enjoy.